To be here in front of all of you talking about the short game. I think what's really great about all of these different teaching summits is we have the opportunity to share what we think, and all of you to be here to be open-minded and really understand kind of what I do in my day-to-day, what I do with my students, and I'm really excited to share that with all of you. So I'm here to talk about the short game, but really how to build better short game players, how to make them think differently, how to make them trust themselves, their swings, but really to allow them to access kind of the shot that they have in front of them, to choose the club that they need to choose, and then also the technique to make them hit that shot. To me, my philosophy is very simple. The ball is going to curve and the ball is going to tell you what you are doing as a player. So we will be doing a live lesson today, but first I'd like to give just a little bit of a history about me. I grew up in the golf industry. My grandfather turned his farm into a golf course, and I actually grew up on the 8th hole. So my kind of knowledge and learning was just me hitting short game shots in my backyard, figuring out what this club was going to be doing with my hands, and making the ball do what it wanted to do, what was kind of going on in my head. So I kind of developed that as well into my teaching. So what we're going to do today too is a lot of situational training, but also there are a few things that I believe everything is connected. We are all unique and everything is important. So as we kind of go through our live lesson, I kind of look at the player as a whole. We talked a lot about the why and the how as well in our session before. But to me, that's really important as I learn a player, kind of their history and their background. Short game is where it happens really, really fast. I feel like you can do the most impact and most work in the short game with the player because you can understand where they're nervous. The first thing I do is I listen. So I allow some time to really listen to the player, ask them questions about, okay, why are you here today? What makes you afraid? What clubs do you normally use in your short game? The second thing that I like to observe. So we'll hit some shots in different places around the green, and really just that first maybe 10, even 15 minutes of the lesson, I'm doing a lot of that background work, a lot of that history, a lot of that personal inventory. And then that's when I go into the teaching portion. And that's really when I take everything that I've learned from them in that first 15 minutes or so, and I adapt to their style of learning. If they're kind of speaking in rhythmic ways and feel and touch, we might do some drills and adapt their style. If they're a little bit more analytical and they like systems, we'll apply some more systems training, and so forth. The last thing that I like to do is really make sure that after we've done all of the adapting into their learning style is we start to build that connection and that collaboration. I think it's really, really important that we start to build that connection with the player and give them the responsibility to do the work on their own as well. So towards the end, we start to kind of develop those drills, the habits that we want to see them do and create in their short game. And yeah, ultimately, that's kind of my philosophy and what we'll see today. So we do have a volunteer that is going to come up. So Justin, would you like to come up and join me? Yep. So talk to me a little bit about your short game, why you're here today, and what you want to improve.
As far as short game, I think it's pretty decent in a lot of ways. That's probably one of my strongest suits.
Okay.
So I think there's always room for improvement. I always want to really get to on a scale of 1 to 10 up to that level 9, maybe up to that 10. Right now it's become a 7. I think consistency and trying to kind of maintain it is going to be kind of like the one thing I'm striving to achieve.
Okay, so where do you find consistency right now in your short game? What shots do you like to hit that you feel consistent with?
Well, the putting is probably the strongest one for me, but I think if there's anything else around the greens, it's probably going to be the chipping side.
Okay,
the pitching could be suspect if I don't focus as much, but I think again, always room for improvement and really kind of make it more profound as far as my player profile goes.
Okay, well, I'd love to see you chip. So we have a bunch of different clubs. I have the pitching wedge here, but kind of grab one of your clubs here and we'll go to one of these stations.
Okay. far as shipping,
Yeah.
what
did you grab there?
46.
46, great.
You want to do that?
Okay. And we'll just kind of walk over to one of these spots here.
Okay. Doesn't matter which flag I go?
Yeah, probably maybe this close one here.
Okay.
We'll do a few balls right there. Really nice. That's right. Well, what I love is that you've chosen a really, really good club to chip with. I like using the pitching wedge or something very low lofted. I love your narrow stance. Let's hit a couple balls from there again. To me, when we are chipping, it's so important to use a low lofted wedge. I feel like it gives, more opportunity to just not manipulate the club the way it's designed. And then I also commented, I always like to give compliments too, allow a player to do something they're doing really well and then go into an area where they can improve. He has a very narrow stance for this shot, which I like. I think being smaller with your stance allows for less errors to be happening. Most players think that a wide base means that they're more stable when really, getting those feet a little bit more together, they can really start feeling where their weight or their center of gravity will be. So really good job with that too. Is this mic'd up to there? Are we? Okay. Any other questions while I'm here?
How do you get a 60 out of somebody's hand?
How to get a 60 out of someone's hand?
That's at that level, and they swear they're showing them that they're 60, and it's not your right club.
I let them find it out for themselves. Like I'll do a lot of these areas where I'll put balls into play. And when you're in a lot of these, you'll find that this outcome is almost better. A pitching wedge, a 50 degree, a 52 degree, even a 56. But most likely than not, like a 46 degree is very versatile for a lot of my players that I work with, a lot of the Mr. Having camps that I have, 30 handicappers, 15 handicappers. And so when I put them into different places and I have them even choose and we do a program like this, I'll bring all 4 to 6 of their wedges, anything from, their 60 all the way to a 9 or even 8 iron. And we have them with me and I hold on to them. I say, okay, which one do you want here? And, they'll be 60 degree. And so I'll let them choose and make that decision, but then I'll say, try this one. And then we'll apply that technique that we're doing here. And they don't have to make such a big swing. And the idea is to make it as easy as possible, keep their swing small, allow for the more effective shot to happen. Because I'm always saying less effort here and more effort with the driver. Let's make big swings and move a lot of energy with the full swing versus here on the green. So hopefully this gets going here soon.
Yeah.
But we can always move you back a little bit, actually. Because you can hit this little chip shot all the way back here. Love the narrow stance. What I love to see is your handle a little bit taller. Maybe stand a little bit taller as well. Yeah, love that. Good.
That was more of a putting motion.
Exactly. So I like to compare the chipping technique to more of a stroke-like motion. Keeping the face in a really more neutral position. Because when you get a little bit taller and the handle more upright, the arms can swing more like when we do with a putting stroke and a more pendulum-like motion. keeping the face right more on. Good. Good. Tear some more down. I really like that. Something else too, in kind of light of keeping things a little bit more neutral, handle a little bit more neutral. So handle tall like we just did there, and then keep it, pause for a moment.
Right.
There you go. A little bit more towards your belly button, not so far leaning forward. Great. There you go. We said that was your 46, right?
Yes.
Go. And now, what clubs do you normally play with? What's your company that you use?
Or if it was closer before, like, what just 2 or 3 steps away, how they kept the 7, 8, or 9, depending on the hole case.
Yeah.
If it was coming like this, where it's more of a kind of like, yeah, carry on the green, more like a 60 or 54, depending on, again, hole location is kind of the same way.
Do you want to hit? I think we have an 8 iron in here.
Right.
Hit that one. Try that one. Yeah, that one's a P.
What's he using? Using the pitching wedge 43.
Yeah. Good. So try and get it to just carry a little bit further, just to the front here. Yeah. That's about 12 feet, 12 yards. Perfect. Very nice. That was great. Good. Right to me. Good. Love that. How does that feel?
Good. Yeah, a little good. Not like guessing involved.
Not a lot of guessing, a lot from the arms.
Yeah.
Not a lot from the lower body with this shot.
Yeah, especially when I have students who do a lot of this, a lot of hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tell them you gotta make the arms the dominant factor.
Yeah, and really it's coming from this shoulder socket, right? A lot of our wrist angles and the elbows are, it's okay to have a little bit of movement, but I just don't like to see a lot of adding or subtracting with this shot. The wrist angles and the elbows are really going to kind of stay the same. And it's that pendulum kind of movement from this shoulder socket that is the most important. Let's hit a couple more. See if you can get one really close. Land it just on the fringe there. Good. So we lowered loft. We got the handle in more of a neutral position. He had it a little bit leaning forward here, which was probably because he was choosing too much loft before. So he was leaning the handle forward. And to me, manipulating the design of the club is just not necessary when you can choose a better club option.
Good miss.
Good. That was nice. And your misses have gotten better too with the loft change.
Yeah.
So you said this was the one he felt most confident with, which is why we started there. You want to start with a player kind of introducing you to what they're really good at and kind of talking them through, build some kind of comfort together. And now talk to me a little bit about kind of your pitches and your high lofted shots. How do you feel with those?
I think, again, consistency is probably the one thing I try to strive for. I've become decent.
Okay.
I feel like I want to improve on that, kind of tighten up the dispersion a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe like where the landing zone is, perhaps, or maybe like depending if it's a tight pin, where my misses should be.
Okay.
Because sometimes they get a little bit aggressive, kind of add shots for me if I don't pull it off.
Okay. So let's hit some of those. Let's go. We're going to walk over here.
Okay.
We'll grab a few clubs.
Okay. Do that.
So now that we're working on more of a pitch style shot, we're going to go into more of our high lofted clubs, maybe a 58, a 60, a 52. Gonna stick here. Would you say that's pretty close?
That's pretty close. If we do a 54.
54?
Yeah.
Sure.
Does that carry?
I'll play around.
60.
Okay. Great.
This is getting away here.
Oh, it is?
Yes. It's you mess with it all day. Take it off.
I got some notes on there though.
Oh, okay. Leave it then. That's fine.
Okay, so moving over to pitches. What club would you like to start with first?
Start with 60.
60.
Okay.
And let's go. We're going to hit some pitches kind of over to this side of the green. Yeah, we're going to go a little bit longer. Because we want these to come in nice and high, and we want them to land like a butterfly with sore feet, right? So,
Do you have a pin in mind?
no, I'll have you pick the pin. Tell me kind of something that you would see at your like local course that you play at.
I feel a lot of pins where it's going to be like the middle pin, that back left pin a lot.
Okay.
There's not a lot of flat pin places where it's like tucked behind the sand track.
Okay, perfect. So the middle pin and the right pin.
Let's go, Justin.
Oh.
And shot. This looked pretty good to me.
How long is that? This is a 60?
Mm-hmm. So now show me some more that go maybe a little bit higher, a little bit softer.
Right.
What would you change here?
Probably would just change the ball position, maybe one ball lane. Maybe instead of putting it in the middle and try to drive down, move this up maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I love a little bit forward, and just like what we did it before with our chips, I'd love to see that handle back a little bit more towards that right hip, please.
So like this?
Yeah, there you go. Like that. So adding just a little bit more loft, you're doing a great job of using that bounce, but this gets it just in a more lofted position so you can get a wider bottom. Oops.
So I'm gonna lay down to the exposure one right here.
Yeah, I like that. That way.
Motion.
Yeah, and get that handle even more back towards this right pocket. Yeah, exactly. So club face still square, but then kind of drop it back. Yeah. And especially with these pitches, don't be afraid to kind of use that wrist. Nice. With this one, we have a little bit more rotation. Yeah, great. There you go. Great shot. Does that feel different than what you would do before?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've always had a thing about if it's a regular shot, I always like to make sure I kind of keep this position in impact. That way I get more of the contact first, because I have one thing that when I try to hit something fancy, I hit more of the ground first.
Okay.
Thing. So that's why I kind of do I'm kind of more consistent, is making sure this, trying to get the ball on the green. And I can be aggressive when it's more like the pin's in the middle or in the back. It's relative to a tight pin, because I gotta approach it a little bit differently. Don't do a lot of.
Well, I would say don't be afraid of hitting the ground first. Just making sure that you're using the bounce. You're going to have a lot more of that loft exposed to the golf ball, especially with these pitches. So yeah, let's hit a few more.
All right. Should we try the one?
Yeah, let's try the hard one.
You were thinking that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. So it'll feel a little bit different, but pause for a moment. Yeah, there you go. I'm keeping the face more neutral. Yeah, there you go. And handle back, because I really want to see more of that club face at the ball. Nice. That's what we're looking for. That was nice.
Great.
So freeing up those wrists on this shot, handle back, allowing for more loft, ball position forward, also adding loft. Like that. And you'd be surprised, most amateurs, most players that we work with are afraid to find the spin that way. They think that they need to lean the handle forward, get the ball back. But then once you show them to move it forward and have more of a wider bottom and get that loft to the golf ball, they're going to start hitting these really spinny shots. This is great. You're doing awesome.
So my question is so what I do before was I was always open to it, and then I try to cut across it that way. You feel like, is there more room for error when I try to cut across, you think?
Yeah, I would say trying to keep it as neutral as possible, still with the face. Okay. Adding loft in ways like moving the ball position forward and also bringing the handle back, instead of feeling like you need to open the face, open the body to cut across it to get that spin. Okay. I think it's a lot easier for a player who maybe doesn't practice this shot quite as often to kind of adapt to this philosophy or just kind of this process. But if you're practicing that shot, if somebody knows how to hit that cut across shot, I'm not going to prevent them from doing that, more or less. If that's something that they have in their game. But if they're looking for something maybe a little bit more consistent, like kind of what you mentioned was, how can I create a more consistent golf shot? I would add this for sure in your routine and try and practice this a little bit more often.
And that's regardless of really how often people play golf, whether they play once a month or like once a week.
This would be a little bit more, consistent.
Got it.
What are you going to do on these shots like with the bouncy? So if you're going to have, say, somebody that's not that great, are you going to recommend different bounces on their wedges or how they're coming at you with their angle of attack? And, try to change that. You have a philosophy to go that way, or...
That's a great question.
You're just going to work with what they've got and say, well, you don't have to spend $700 on a new set of wedges.
So most of my students, I work at the Cove Club, which the members have plenty of money, but I work with a lot of women. I work with a lot of juniors, a lot of men who are just starting to play the game. And instead of kind of confused,
turn your body a little bit.
Does that work?
As much as you can.
Okay. I definitely talk to them about the bounce and what it does, but I don't right away try and manipulate what they currently have in their bag. But just, most of them have 60-degree that they feel comfortable with, or that maybe they've been fitted for before. And so I try and work with that. Yeah. And then eventually when we're ready to have that conversation about the more technical side, I will. But really, I want them to visualize the shot, understand where ball position and handle placement come into play, even as well as grip, where the grip positions could be, and not overcomplicate it. Try and keep it as simple as possible. I love that. Really nice, Justin. So let's move into a place where maybe we're a little bit closer.
Okay.
Let's kind of move over here. Even shorter. So now, yeah, same flag. So again, instead of changing loft and ball position or anything, I like where it is. I'll just grip down a little bit lower, still keeping the wrist really free. And now just changing the distance.
Yeah, more control. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have one of my first coaches say, get down in your work, get down on the grip. But you're still creating the same loft benefits from the ball position and handle back, freeing up the wrist. Good body turn here. There you go.
Yeah, this one it is too.
Yeah.
Just by the sound.
Well, and you're hitting the ball too in pretty much the same spot.
Yeah. Not doing anything different.
Well, and one of the things you said was I want to be better at where my landing spot is. And I mean, you've been on that left side. See some practice swings and really free up those wrists. Allow more hinge, add some hinge to that. There you go. There you go. And now this is, a riskier shot. So what I would encourage you to do, since it is something that you're wanting to improve on, is add some more situational practice with these shots, kind of moving around the green, getting yourself in some uneven lies, maybe some tight lies. Yeah, all of this. So like the next time you come out and practice, I definitely would recommend,
To try different scenarios.
Yeah, try different scenarios, not necessarily even staying in one spot, but just kind of how we're moving through this today.
What do you change when you have fall below your feet or ball above your feet? Are you just changing the setup, the shaft? Can you raise the shaft up on a ball below your feet and lower it?
Someone tell us about that.
So go ahead and hit one from there. Again, just trying to keep it as simple as possible. Working with a lot of high handicappers. Still ball forward. Handle it, just on making them understand where loft comes from. Handle position, ball position. When you're uphill, it's going to add loft. So maybe we then lower the loft in the club itself, just depending on kind of how high they want to hit that shot. And so we'll do a lot of testing like this. Every player is a little bit different. They look at a 60-degree wedge in this situation and they think that they're still going to hit it kind of their medium trajectory, but then it flies super high. So to me, the ball tells the student what they're doing, and then we get to kind of make decisions based off of that, which is why I think short game's my favorite thing to do, is because you can teach a player what they're doing to the ball right away, really, really quickly. And then they're like, oh, I can do this with my iron. I can do this with my driver. And really, then you're just teaching them how they're manipulating the ball. But, to me, the club, it's like the ball tells you what to do. The club, if you can not manipulate it, try and keep it as simple as possible for the student. And then they can get creative after that if they want to. But most people can just handle kind of what we're doing here. Awesome. That's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Like I think we have a little bit of time. Are there any other shots at your club that you don't feel comfortable or you want a little bit of kind of feedback on?
I just want to kind of look at if I have the same pitch up on the pins in the back, for example.
Okay.
I feel like I'm decent on it, but I feel like distance control can be a little bit tightening up a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
Let's do that.
For stuff like that, I usually hit a 54.
Okay.
Only, but we can try other clubs too.
Perfect. So we've worked on kind of a chip. We've worked on kind of creating some consistency with his pitch shots, knowing where his landing zones are. And now he asked about his longer pitch shots, wanting to be more consistent on distances. So let's go ahead. You said 54?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Let's try that. Would you say like from this one to that back pin, or are we talking kind of that further green to green number 3 down there? So we got this green number 2, and then we got green number 3 way back there. Well, how long are your pitches?
I'm about this.
Okay, perfect.
This, yeah.
Okay. And feel free to ask questions if something comes up.
Yeah.
Who is something? Yeah. He seems to be, I mean, I don't really know. Over there, he was square. I could tell where he's going. Here, he's got an open stance and open shoulders, and I can't tell where he's going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he started doing that a little bit with the chips, actually, as well. He was kind of setting up with his body a little bit more open to the target.
You don't have effect in your body.
Right. So that's why we kind of got him more neutral in kind of all the handle positions, too. So the more that he kind of keeps his body here a little bit taller, a little bit more up, he's going to start swinging more linear, in my opinion. So that's something that we might look at here as well. So go ahead and hit a couple more for me. Thanks for noticing that. Good.
That's a shot I like.
Yeah. And do you like seeing that kind of trajectory here also?
I do.
Kind of a mid?
Yeah, that way if I get not as high, but when I get the ball a little bit lower, I can actually get, for me, less margin for error.
Okay.
For error times, I can get more of that control.
Okay. So and then when you hit these distances, do you really still like to see like what's your rollout percentage versus carry percentage for kind of this shot?
Usually, if it's a lower penetrating pitch for me,
Uh-huh.
I let it land about a third of the way on at the most.
Okay.
I let it roll out the rest.
Okay.
Obviously, if there's a carry over a bunker or whatever it could be, that's different. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
but this is kind of what you see at your, like you said, your local club.
yeah,
He likes to see
even though our greens are smaller than normal,
yeah.
there's a lot of open area in front of the green that you can just pitch it on, like keep it low and really try to really roll it
Yeah.
than anything.
Well, and I like, I mean, we walked over here because he said you have some greens that the pin's back. So this is kind of simulating that.
Yeah.
Let's hit a few more there.
Yeah, we need that.
That was really nice. What I see mostly in his change here is your handle position. It started really far forward, you know? Yeah, and I like it's moved into more of a middle position. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still able to have that nice,
Yeah.
kind of medium trajectory.
Oh,
I mean, those look pretty good.
pretty good.
Like, I really wouldn't change much there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the consistency.
So now what I would say is in your practice, have you done any practice like this before? Or you kind of have done more situational, or do you just kind of stand in one spot and
I
hit golf
like to
balls?
challenge myself normally to
Okay.
try different shots
Good.
because I don't want to be so one-dimensional when it comes to having the same shot over and over again.
Okay, great.
Because I know it's different than being on the golf course where we're dealing with like 4 or 5 different scenarios in a round.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you do that already.
Mm-hmm.
What I would recommend too is, if you do like situational practice is, we've done 3 or 4 balls and do a test, rate your practice as you go. So, if you have 4 balls, walk up there after the set of 4 and really measure your distances, and do sets like that. Because if you already do situational practice, you want to make sure that you're giving yourself feedback to that practice. So just taking that extra time, measuring those out, or even just like you said, putting is a really strong point, try and make those up and downs and add that into that practice as well. So yeah, very good. How are we doing on time? We got like 15 more minutes. Any questions? Anything?
Actually, I do have one.
Okay.
Now, for the shots we had here, would this apply the same in the bunker?
The same in the bunker.
The technique as far as like putting the hands back, even though you're hitting the ball, you're hitting the sand first.
Yeah, let's get in the bunker.
Okay.
Might as well. So what would you like to hit in the bunker? We got a 58, a 60.
The 60.
A 60?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, let's go over here because I think everyone can kind of see us. What was that?
no,
Oh.
I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah, let's go right in here. Now, what do your bunkers look like at your course that you play?
A lot of it, well, we put new sand in about a year ago.
Okay.
So it's kind of the same color, the same kind of texture.
Is this right here?
It's close.
Okay.
It's close, yeah. There's some other ones that we're still working on, but still, overall,
Pretty similar.
Just like, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, the bullet probably not so deep as where we're at, but again, the goal for my to teach my students is get the ball out.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of this shot.
mm-hmm.
A lot of people are, especially beginners.
Yeah.
So, but,
Which is funny. Once you tell them that not to be afraid of the sand, that it's almost in a perfect lie, then
it is.
right? It's
Yeah.
better than being kind of on this lie, or we have really high Bermuda all around our bunkers. I'm like, hit it in the bunker. It's better. All right, show me what you do right now.
Normally, white base, big feet in, pull them away here, open the club base. Normally, I cross a little bit, but I still try to pump down into the sand deep and let the ball pop.
Okay.
So.
Let's see. I'm gonna have you hit 3 on your own, and then we'll kind of go from there. You were aiming for that one. That was good.
Yeah.
These are all great. So really, with amateurs and most of the players that I teach who are afraid to get in the bunker, teaching them that digging your feet in is super important, just feeling comfortable in the sand, I feel it gives them connection to the ground. And then, getting used to kind of keeping the handle a little bit lower and not being afraid of using that bounce.
Right.
So really, I want to see if you can hit this one really, really high, just to the middle of the green. Again, just applying the same ideas that we had before, handle back. Club face still square, we're not opening up the face. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Very good. And even if we wanted to make this even more lofted, You know, where you get the handle there, a little bit lower too. Really get that bounce.
Yeah, like this.
Yep. Good shot. Good. And I mean, you're doing great with kind of the bounce, getting the sand out. That's really my main conversation with most of the players that I have is they're not comfortable hitting the sand.
Right.
So really seeing the visual and having them practice kind of that handle low, ball position forward, and really kind of smacking the sand as much as they can before they even hit a golf ball is a huge help as well. Any questions in the bunker? No? Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I
Appreciate it,
appreciate you being up here with me today.
My pleasure.
Being brave.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh.
Oh, no, I got it. Don't worry. I'm just going to do one thing at a time.
Hands. Let's try and get your hands at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
For which technique that we're talking about?
It could be a chick.
Okay.
Or a little bit, maybe like a 25-yard shot.
Okay.
And this is too little, but everything is this. So like, what's that visualization of like where your hands are in space? How do I get back to here to produce a certain length of a shot?
Of a shot. So she had the question, how do I describe where a student should have their hands or their club head to produce a different distance, even with it just a chip? And I think that depends on every person, but depending on also what club they have. Because if I put something with if I have them with less loft, they're not going to need to produce as long of a swing. So typically for my high handicappers, I want them in as low loft as possible with the chip, so they have to make less of a swing so they can get that ball on the green. So really, it's kind of referencing back to putting. I often teach putting and chipping almost either in the same lesson or back to back so that they have the correlation between the two swings. And I have them kind of, because the stance is so narrow, they can even sometimes hold the hands, similar to their putting grip, and just really kind of reference either the back of their foot or even their hips, depending on if they like that. But typically I would always reference the hands versus the head for this chip. When I think about pitching, it's all about getting that club as far back as possible and hinging more with the pitch. I find that beginner players have a really hard time wanting to get more wrist angle when they're pitching. So, I'll be talking about that a lot. The hands might only be about hip height, but the head of the club is much, much higher. So yeah, referencing a clock might work. With chipping, it's all about kind of that putting stroke and freeing up the shoulder and having more room to swing kind of back and through with the arms.
Do you ever bring them toe down?
Yeah, toe down. I mean, that's kind of what we improved a little bit there, is getting the hand a little bit higher. That changes the interaction right away, gets them closer to the ball and allows this to move back more linear. And then when we kind of go into the pitching, stance gets a little bit wider, ball position might change a little bit, handle back for more loft, and then you're really starting to hinge a lot more and getting more of that body turn towards that target on the finish. What would you say that you struggle with the most with your students with understanding distance? Is it just kind of that correlation between
I think
length?
it's the lack of practice.
Okay.
There is no relation to, if I go back this far, it goes through this far,
Yeah.
and it produces this, because it's so inconsistent. It's either here or here or here or here, or I'm just trying to make it up on the forwards.
Yeah, so that's when I would take one session completely and just work on setting up, basically a combine and a progression of wedge shots. And I would start them really close and go all the way back with maybe about 5 balls in each spot. And then I would start situational, more variation practice, and have them go at different spots, different distances.
Like the 5th and 6th, like is there like if we're not going to a target, are you just using like one type of club just to get?
I would get a baseline. Yeah, I would find out with them and work with them to find out what their club they're like the most comfortable with. I find that a pitching wedge or an A wedge for most players when they're chipping is probably a bit more comfortable. Not even a 56. And then when you move back those distances, creating that baseline of what feels good with length at these different markers that you've decided, and then kind of write them down or have them write them down as well as they're moving backwards. And then once they get comfortable with understanding how far they can go with each length, then I would then start doing the variable practice and the situational stuff because the last thing that you want them to come back is saying, I'm so good on the practice range, but I'm not very good on the golf course. Why can't I do them both? And so I find that, then if you drop down to one ball at different distances, you can start doing tests that way as well. Yeah, a little more pressure, but also hopefully a lot of fun. I mean, we're doing this because we have fun and they're doing it because they want to have fun too. So, being up on the green and kind of being a marker for them too, it can kind of be fun, like hit it at me and start doing that. It'd be really good too. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Yeah. Try and turn this way. Anyone else? Well, thank you. I really appreciate you guys all being here with me today. Hopefully you either do a lot of what I taught or it's kind of made you question what you guys are kind of doing as well. So thank you. Thanks. I feel like I had like 4 mics on.